What's up everybody, welcome back. So in today's videos I want to take a look at a few improvements for the lobby and our menus. So we're going to make sure that our player name appears on our XP InfoCard so we can immediately see what profile we have selected. Going to add game mode selection to the lobby so we can select different game modes. We only have one right now, but at least we have the selection in place then. And I also want to show you how you can remove things like spaces and other characters from a player name so we can improve the player name check a little bit and make sure that you don't end up with weird and confusing player names. So that's today's video. If you like the series, please consider leaving a like, and if you want to get your hands on the project files, you can leave a small donation on my Ko-fi page or become a member of my YouTube channel, and then you will get access to the premium channels in the Discord, which will give you access to a few premium downloads, and this project is one of them. So let's just dive into today's video. So let's start with the XP info widget. So go to the widgets folder and we're going to look for the InfoCard XP. And we want to make sure that this is a little bit bigger so our player name actually fits in here. So I'm going to grab the first border and I'm going to wrap the border with a size box. Wrap with size box. Then select the size box and I'm going to set the width and the height override and I'm going to make it 200 by 300. So that should take care of the size. Then I want to display the player name below the XP here. So I'm going to grab this horizontal box and I'm simply going to duplicate it. Then we have two text objects in here and I'm going to delete the one that's not a variable. The other one that is a variable, I'm going to change it to the text player name. And then the horizontal box needs to be auto and then fill horizontally, so that's good. Then we can grab the text and align that to the center horizontally and set it to fill, and that should make it pop to the center. And then for the horizontal box above there, I'm gonna set it to auto and then center align horizontally, so that will make the XP text pop into the center as well. So we can change this into player name, but that doesn't really matter. I want to increase the size a little bit of these texts. So I'm going to grab all of these and increase the size a little bit. So make it 16 maybe. And increase this one a little bit as well. So make that one 42. Okay, so I think that's the designer part. Now if we go into the graph, we need to make one simple change inside of the update XP info function. So let's open up this one. And we want to make sure that we set the player name text as well. So we're already grabbing everything from the GameInstance, so that's good. We can simply grab one of these set text nodes over here, plug them in, and then make sure that we actually set the text player name. So change that one and then plug in the name. We need to get the name from somewhere else. I'm sorry, I hit the pins. So simply if you break the thingy, you need to enable the player name and then you can plug it in over here. So this will make the player name appear on our profile widget, and we might need to look into some alignments because that's messed up right now. So we need to actually go into the menus that have this widget. So for example, we have the character menu over here and we want to replace it with the new one. So we can simply grab it over here and delete it. And if we add a new one, as long as that's named the same, then we will not get any issues with variables and references. So this is still the XP InfoCard, so the naming is the same and everything should work. So I'm going to align it to the bottom right and then set it to -50, -50, and then this alignment is 1, 1. And that should work, so no errors when compiling. And do that for the menus that have the card. So that's the loadout menu doesn't have it. The lobby menu has one. So I'm simply going to delete it again and then grab it from the user widgets and drag it in here again, InfoCard XP. And then make sure it's properly aligned. So -50, -50, 1, 1. That's good to go. And we have it in our main menu. So let's do it over here as well. The profile card, get rid of it. and grab a new one. Alignment bottom right, -50, -50, and then 1, 1, and that's good to go. So you could choose to add one to the MP menu. I'm not too worried about that. So I think we have everything covered. And right now, if we check it out, it's actually properly sized. So that looks a little bit better. And now we can actually see what profile we have selected. So that's the profile info card. Now let's move on to the valid name check. So for the valid name check, we want to open our main menu and let's dive into the graph. So first of all, we need to create a new function. So we're gonna put that function right over here after the onText committed. But let's just make sure we create it first. You can ignore this one, we don't need it. So let's create a new function, and that's going to be isValidNameInput. isValidNameInput. So the function needs one input, and that's the input, so the name input, and that's a text variable. And we also want to give it two outputs. Let me double check. So that's going to be the name result and the isValidName boolean, so name result. That's a text, and then the second one is the isValidName, and that one is a bool. So let's make a bit of room over here. We need a bunch of local variables as well, so I'm going to create those first. So the first one is the local name result. That's a text variable again. Then we have the local isValidName, that's the boolean. So turn that one into a bool. And then we need two string arrays. So let's create a new one. The first one is the local forbidden characters. So turn this into a string and then make it an array of strings. And we also want the local character array. And that's also an array of strings. So that's good to go. So we have our name input here. The first thing we're going to do is store it inside of our local name input. So we have it in a local variable. Then we want to grab it from here and we want to look for a toString. So we're going to change the text into a string. And then we can get a character array from here. So drag off the string and get character array. So what this will do, it will grab each character, so each letter, space, whatever is in there, and put that in an array. So each character has a single entry into the array. So we're going to store this inside of our local character array. Plug it in over here, and then we want to grab a for each loop. And we're going to loop through our forbidden characters. So grab in the local forbidden characters and plug that in over here. So we can simply grab our local character array and drag off here and look for remove item. So if you look for the description, removes all instances of the item. So for example, if we have the space inside of our forbidden characters array, it's going to remove all the spaces from this array. So we can simply plug this into the loop body and plug this into the array element. And that will remove all the characters that we put inside this array from our actual name. So if that's done, we need to make sure there's actually a name left in here. So we're going to grab a branch and we want to check if the local character array's length is greater than 0. So we're going to grab local character array, grab the length from here and make sure that it's greater than 0. So if this is actually false, it's not a valid name. We cannot use this name. So we're going to drag in the isValidName setter and set it to false. Now, if this is true, we want to make sure that we grab our local name result and store our character array in here. So let's grab the local name result, grab a setter, and then we're going to grab the local character array. And we're going to turn this into one string again. So join string array. And now you need to make sure that you delete whatever is in here, because you can see by default there's a space in here. So this will make a give a space in between every letter, and we don't want that. So we're going to remove the separator and then plug this into the text, and that will convert the string into a text. So that's saved inside of our local variable again. Then we want to grab our player name input, so that's the text box where the player actually puts in the player name, and we're going to update the text, so in case it actually changed. So set text, editable text, plug this in here and plug in the local name result. And then after we removed all the characters we do not want, we can actually check if it's not one of the names we do not want. So we can grab these comparisons over here for the boolean, and we want to make sure that the result is not none, not empty, or there's nothing left in here. So we're going to simply grab this with the branch, and we're going to cut it from here. Go to our isValidName check, and we can paste it over here. So we want to plug this one into the branch, and then we can simply grab our local name result variable and plug this into the comparison nodes. So that way we know we do not have one of these names left over. And then if this is true, then we actually have a valid name. So drag in a setter, set the valid name to true. And if it's false, the name is not valid. So make sure you disable it, plug this one into the false bin. And then we can simply return and plug in the local variables inside the return node. So make sure you connect up all three branches over here as well. And then we can return the local name result and the local isValidName. So this will make sure that all characters that we put inside of our local forbidden characters array will be removed from the name. So all we need to do now is set the defaults for this array. So I'm gonna add a 5 for now. I'm not really that worried about it. So you want to add a space, for example. So that's going to remove all the spaces, and then you can also enter all other characters you do not want to be inside of a name. So for example, I'm going to do the add, and then the thingy, and the other thingy, and the other thingy. So I don't know the names in English. So there we go, and that will remove all of these characters from the name that the player put in. So we can compile, save, and then go back to the event graph. So on text committed, we're going to call our isValidName input, plug this in and plug in the name input. And then we want to make sure that if it's valid, that we enable the accept button. So let's grab a branch over here, plug it in and plug that into the condition. So if it's valid, we're going to enable the button accept, and if it's false, we want to disable it. But we also want to clear the text inside of the text box. So we're going to grab our input player name again from the variables, and then set text editable text, and just leave it empty, so it will clear the text box if the name is not valid. Now this should work. The accept button will be enabled, and then if we click the accept button, we're going to get the text from the text box again, and that will make everything work. So we do not need to do anything with the name result over here, that's fine. So if we go inside of our game right now and we go to profiles and create a new one, then you will see if I, for example, press in a none but put in a space and then an add and something like this, and I will accept this, it will not tolerate that. So it will get rid of all the spaces, all the forbidden characters. What's left is the name none, and the name none is not allowed, so accept will not be enabled. And on the other way, if I put my actual name in here, it will still work. So that's the valid name check in place, and now all we want to do is take a look at setting up our different game modes. For the game mode selection in the lobby, we need to make sure that we actually have different game modes to choose from. So first of all, let's go inside of our framework folder, and we have our enumeration for the game modes. I'm going to open it and simply add one for now to test things. So I'm going to call this my test game mode. That doesn't really matter as long as there's something in here. So compile and save. And then we want to update the widget first. So let's go to widgets lobby menu. And inside the lobby menu, let's tackle the designer part. So over here I'm going to add a border for the selection of the game mode. So let's drop in a border over here, and this one is going to be somewhere around 500 by 95. And I'm going to make this first border black to make it stand out a little bit more better. And then inside of this border I'm going to grab myself another border. And this is my normal white border, so this is going to be 111 and then alpha 0.5. So in here I want to grab a vertical box so I can drop some stuff above each other. And inside of that vertical box I'm going to start with some text. So let's grab some text, drop it in here, and the text is simply going to say game mode. So let's change that first, game mode. And let's make sure the font and everything else matches up. So I'm going to center it, and that looks a little bit better. Now we want to grab a horizontal box and drop that one inside of the vertical box. So horizontal box inside the vertical box. And inside this I want to grab a button, some text, and then another button. So first of all I'm simply going to grab one of my buttons over here, the start game one for example. I'm going to copy it and then go to my horizontal box, paste it once. So this is going to be the button, and then for the game mode selection and then the previous game mode. And I'm going to grab the text over here and simply put in 2 arrows to the left. Then I want to grab some text in here, so let's grab the game mode text. I'm going to copy it, go to the horizontal box, paste it, and this is going to be the text game mode, and this needs to be a variable. So let's make it text game mode, and enable is variable. So for this one I'm going to set it to fill and then leave it to center, that's fine. Oh, that's the text, so you probably want to leave that to auto fill and then grab the horizontal box. Let's just add the button first and then see what we need to put the text to. So I'm going to duplicate the game mode previous button and then drop that below the game mode text. So that button is going to end up on the right side. This is going to be the button game mode next. And I'm going to change the arrows to face the other way around. So this text doesn't need to be a variable, and the text on the other button doesn't need to be a variable either. Then I'm going to grab the game mode text, and I want to make sure this is centered. So let's set it to fill and then center. Yeah, that was correct. So okay, fill center, and then with the button on the other side, this will center everything out. Okay, so this is the designer part, and now let's take a look at the event graph. So let me grab my notes quickly. Event graph. Okay, so inside of the event graph, for the clients, we want to make sure that we disable the buttons to change the game mode, because only the host can change it. So let's go to our event construct. And inside the event construct we have the isServer branch. If we are not the server, then we're simply going to grab our button game mode next and also the button game mode previous, and we want to remove them from parent, so we can actually just plug them into the node that's already here, and that will get rid of the buttons for the clients. So for the host we need to do a little bit more work. So the first thing we want to do is create a new function to select the game mode, but we need a function on the actual game mode to do that. So let's create that function first, and then we're going to go back to the widget. So let's go to our framework folder, and inside here we're going to open up our menu game mode and create a new custom event on the event graph. Custom event, and this is going to be set selected game mode. So we want a variable for the game mode, so let's create a new variable, call this selected game mode, and that's going to be the type of our enumeration game modes, so game modes. And then we can grab a setter over here, plug this in. We want to pass on the variable with the event. And after that, we want to call our update lobby event to make sure that we update the lobby for all clients, but we're going to take care of that a little bit later. So with this event in place, we can go back to our lobby menu, and inside of the lobby menu, we're going to create our select game mode event. So let's function. So let's create a new function, call this select game mode. And for this, we're going to give it an actual index as an input. So inputs, and that's going to be an index, and that's an integer. We need a little setup on the event graph for this. So if we go to the event graph, and over here, this is still event construct. We have the isServer branch is true. And then the server goes through a for each loop. If the for each loop is completed, he's going to set the level selection. And from here, we want to continue. So I'm going to make a little bit of room. And the first thing I want to do is grab all of the values inside of my game mode enumeration and store them inside an array. And there actually is a function for that. So if we right click and look for each, and then type the name of our enumeration, so that's the game mode's enum. So it will actually loop through the enumeration like it does with an array and a for each loop. So each enum value, we're going to store that in an array. So we need a variable for that, and that's going to be the game modes array. So e game modes, and that's going to be of the e game modes type. And that's an array, so we're going to drag in a getter and then add an element. So add, plug it into the loop body and plug in the enum value. So we're going to end up with an array with all of our game mode options in there. And after this is completed, we're going to call our select game mode event. So we can plug that in over here, and we can leave the index to 0. So if the host enters the menu, because this is event construct, we're going to start by selecting the first game mode inside of our array. Okay, now let's go back to the select game mode function, and in here we're going to grab our game modes array, and we're going to get a copy, and we're going to grab the index from the input over here. Then we want to grab our menu game mode. So we already determined we are the server because we're only having these buttons enabled on the server. From here we can actually directly call the game mode. So we can simply get game mode and cast it to our menu game mode. And on the menu game mode, we created the event that we can call. So we're simply going to call the set selected game mode. And from here, we can plug in the result from the array getter over here as the new game mode. And then we also want to make sure that we change the actual game mode on the game instance, because if we press the start game button, the game instance will run the server travel event, and that actually needs the game mode as an input. So if we go into our game instance right now, then we're gonna make a new string for the actual game mode. So we're making option string here, game mode endless wave. We want this to be a variable. So we're gonna create a new variable, and that's our selected game mode. And this time it's a string. And then we want to plug this into the make option string node, and there's one of them inside of the solo game event, and there's also one inside of the server travel or travel to map event. So over here, make option string game mode, and you want to plug in the selected game mode. There we go. And then we can go back to our lobby menu, and we can simply get our game instance, cast it to our shooter game instance, and then make sure we set the selected game mode string. So set selected game mode, plug it in here, and we can simply plug in the enumeration into the string, and that will convert it for us. So that will update the game mode on the game instance, and it will also update it onto the actual game mode. So now we need to make sure that the game mode will replicate the changes back to the clients so they can actually see what game mode is selected by the server. So we need an event on our menu controller for that. So I'm gonna grab my notes quickly, menu controller, and let me see, we're gonna create a replicated event on here. So, oh come on. So let's go to the framework menu controller, and inside of the event graph, let's create a new custom event, and that's going to be update game mode. So this event needs to run on the owning client, so replication run on owning client, and make sure we set it to reliable for now. And we want to pass on our actual game mode enumeration in here, so let's add an input, and that's going to be the game mode. And that's our game mode's enumeration. Then we're going to grab our lobby menu, make sure that it's valid, so let's copy and paste it over here, and on the lobby we can simply call our update game mode event or function. Didn't we just create that yet? Oh, we only did select game mode. Okay, that's nice. So if we go into our widget again, so we have the lobby menu widget, we need a small event to update the selected game mode, so we're going to call this update game mode. And all this will do is change the actual text. So we're going to grab our text game mode from the variables over here, and we're going to set the text. Plug this in over here. And then we're going to give this an input as a string. So we cannot convert an enum to a text at once. So we need to go from enum to string and then from string to text. So we're going to give this the game mode. And that's a string variable, and then plug this in over here, so that will convert it. And then we can go back into the menu controller. Oh freaking oh, I love it when it resizes it to like 1 by 2 centimeters. Okay, so we can go back to the update game mode event, and over here from the lobby menu we can call update game mode now. And then plug in the enum into the string to convert it over here. So with this event in place, we can make sure that the server can call this from the game mode to update it for all the clients. So we can go back to our menu game mode again, and over here we need to change our update lobby event. So let's go to the beginning of our update lobby event. And over here I'm going to grab a branch, drag it onto the event, create a new condition, and this time we want to update the game mode. So again, let's go to the back of the execution branch over here. So right now we're updating the player ready as the last thing. So we're going to plug in the new branch, also plug it into the false pin like we did a few times before. No, that's the wrong pin. There we go. And if we want to update the selected game mode, then we can drag off the player controller again. So that's the array element of the for each loop over here. You can simply drag off it, and we're going to call our update game mode event. Plug it into the true pin, and for the actual game mode we can just plug in our selected game mode. Just like so. So this runs on the owning client, so this will update the widgets for the clients again. So I think we have most of this stuff covered and we are pretty good to go. So I'm gonna double check my notes and get back to you guys, and otherwise we're gonna test it. Okay, we're not quite there yet. There's a few things we need to wrap up. So first of all, in the menu game mode, we have our set selected game mode event, and after that we want to call our update lobby. So make sure you call update lobby, and this time we want to update the game mode. So make sure you enable game mode. And we also want to do that inside of the menu controller, inside of the server update lobby event. So this will be called if a new player enters the lobby, and we want to make sure that we update the game mode over here as well. So it will be updated for all players inside of the lobby. And then we also want to make sure that inside of the widget we actually create on-click buttons for the next and the previous game mode. So that's what we need to do. If we go to the lobby menu event graph, we want to grab an on-clicked event for the button game mode next. So let's add on-clicked, and also for the previous one on-clicked. And then this shouldn't be too hard. So let me see. We can create an index for the game mode index to make our lives a little bit easier. So if we create a new variable and call this our game mode index and change it into a single integer. So we're going to grab our game mode index, and for the next button we're going to increment the int. So increment it, plug it in. And then we want to make sure we do not exceed our array bounds. So we're going to grab in a branch over here. We're going to grab our game mode index. So it's already been incremented right now. And then we're going to see if it's greater than or equal to the length of our game modes array size. The length of our game modes array. So let's drag in the game modes array, grab the length and plug that in over here. So if this is true, we are actually at an index that's not inside the array anymore. So we want to plug in the condition and then set the game mode index for the true pin to 0. So we're going to start over. And if it's false, we can simply keep the index and continue. And then all we need to do is call our select game mode function, plug it in over here. And for the index, we can plug in our game mode index. And then for the previous one, we can do similar stuff, but we need to decrement it. So we're going to grab the game mode index. We're going to decrement int. And this time we want to make sure that we are not below 0. So we're going to grab a branch again, connect it up, compare the game mode index, make sure that it's less than 0, plug it in over here. And if it's less than 0, we want to make sure that we set it to the highest index in the array. So we're going to grab a game mode index setter. And then we can simply grab the game mode's length and subtract 1 of this. And that's going to be the highest index in the array. So we can plug it into the game mode index. And if this is true, so it's actually higher than 0, then we don't need to do anything. We can simply call our select game mode function over here and connect up both branches. And this should make the next and the previous buttons work. So I think right now we are good to go. So let's just have a little look. 2-player game, that should be plenty. And let's host a session. There we go. So the server has the game mode. I'm going to change it to test game mode and then join it to see if that actually updates as well. So that's working. The buttons for the client are gone, so the client cannot select the game mode. And if the server changes this, you can see it will automatically update for the client as well. And we still have the ready up buttons working and stuff like that. So that's pretty much today's video. We made some small improvements, the name check, the profile card, we have game mode selection in the lobby, so now we can work on adding a different game mode if we like to as well. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like. It helps the channel out tremendously and I will be eternally grateful if you do. So I'll be back soon for more. Talk to you later guys. Bye bye.